Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. In this video, I am just continuing the build process. I changed my servo. I had spec'd out a Rude Dog servo, which is a good servo, and I've got at least one of those in another vehicle. But I have really come to just love these ProTech RC servos. This is their 160 SS. It's their super fast. It's a shorty. And they are just, they seem to be bulletproof physically, the internals as well as the nice aluminum case. They are, as far as I can tell, one of the fastest servos made in its class, if not all classes, if not the fastest. It's certainly up there in the top 2 or 3 servos as far as its speed. And it still manages to output a decent amount of torque as well, which for a 4-wheel drive buggy, you want a certain amount of torque to fight the drivetrain for the front wheels, as well as still being quick. They're just a cut above. I've never had a problem with them. I've got them in easily 8 cars at this point, and I'm extremely happy with them. So I went ahead and ordered one of these up because I knew I was going to be waiting for some other parts anyway. And that goes to another issue, and I'm not ranking on Associated. I love their cars. I've been buying them since the dawn of RC. I was one of the, I was one of the early people getting that gold pan car pre-order kind of thing, getting started in racing at a very young age, and I've had many of their cars over the years. Things happen when you are putting hundreds, even thousands of little parts into bags. I'm explaining this because I'm not going to have to deviate from the build schedule following the various steps because I'm missing a part. It's a very small part. It's a very critical part. It is one of the 2, it's like a bushing. It's like a barrel that goes in between, through here, and it basically goes in between the 2 ball bearings, and then a screw runs through that, anchoring it to one of the arms. My kit only had one. Now, if you've been watching my builds and earlier steps of this one, you know that when I open a bag of parts, I've got the area cleared. I've got, little parts trays at the ready, empty, and I cut those bags open and I empty them into the tray, especially the stuff with small hardware. So, and before I made this and brought this issue up, not only did I check over my entire desk area, but I went through my trash bin, like down to the crumb, pulling every little piece out. If there was a piece of paper rolled up, I unrolled it. Then I went to the video that I shot where I was opening that bag and emptying it into one of these little red trays. And I could clearly see that there was only one part in there. I cut the bag open, poured it into the tray. I froze that frame. I enlarged it. I enhanced it. It is not in there. So this is not me making a mistake. Just wanted to make that clear. And again, I'm not calling for anyone to be angry at Associated. They are a great company. These things happen. And if it had happened on a weekday, when I could have called Associated and gotten them to send me a part, I'm sure they would have. It happened Saturday. And I just went ahead and ordered up the part and threw out the extra money, like 5 times the cost of the part to get, 2-day air. So I'll have it tomorrow, which is Tuesday, so I can continue this build. I was really hoping to be able to take this to the track this week get some practice time with it and race this weekend. That is not going to happen now. Just don't have the time. But it'll be the next week. So, you know, all's good. But just prepare yourself for these kind of things. And this is one of the reasons, if you're going to race and you are even remotely taking it seriously, buy certain parts, breakable parts, like steering knuckles and things like that, that they may have at the shop that you're racing out of, and they may not. You know, they may have sold the last one right before you upended your car and broke that steering knuckle or that front arm, and they don't have a replacement option for you. Getting a parts box and stocking it with, you know, necessary breakable parts is always a good idea. You can't have the entire car's worth of parts. That would be impractical. But there are things, if you are experienced in this hobby, you know certain things break. And having those things is a godsend. You may never need them. You might race the car for 2 years and never break a steering knuckle, but having that part in your box is just one less thing to worry about. And if you do need it, it's worth 100 times its cost, because you're talking, you know, a whole day of racing blown because you have a broken car now. If you were doing well, you're really screwed because you're not going to make your finals. You know, you may have missed out on a trophy, or if you're trying to do a local points challenge or something like that, you know, it can really blow up your day. So, you know, there's a lot of money in this sport just with getting from place to place and everything else. And being prepared for problems is so worth it. So, I mean, look at how this has impacted me. One little barrel that I don't have, I can't get at a local store, and, you know, progress ground to a halt where I've got my steering linkage partially assembled, and I had to make the decision, do I continue building while I wait for the part? And I am continuing to build, but I wanted to let you guys know where I'm at and why this is happening. So I'm going to be moving on to bag 7. I hope I wasn't too long-winded with this. But I mean, these things are incredibly frustrating, and they do crop up. And, you know, you need to just take it on the chin and move forward. But I did buy a couple extras. Not that that's a part that I'm going to need. I'm going to have at least one spare. I think I bought 2 packs of them because they were like $3 or $4. You know, that's not necessarily a part that can break, but, and there's another thing I wanted to talk about, the pins for the differentials. I found an interesting document online that recommends switching the shim, which is 0.2 millimeters, okay? And they recommend switching it for a different associated shim that is 0.15, so it's 5 thousandths or 500ths thinner. Now that would probably make all the difference, because I tried putting that pin in without any shim, and I was able to. Over the course of building 2 diffs, I lost 2 pins. That's a problem. And considering this is the last generation, I bought this a while back and it's been sitting on the shelf unbuilt. And this is the B74.1. The 74.2 has been out now for probably 6 months to a year. This is still an excellent car, and they're still available at a very nice price point now. If you want to get into this, saving $100 to $150 on the initial cost of your kit, that's money for wheels and tires and motor, all kinds of other things that you need. So I don't know that the changes between the two versions are that extreme because it's a 0.1. It's not, they didn't go B75. There are some changes, but from what I hear, they're not that extreme. And everyone always thinks the latest model is the best model. It's up to you and your driving. I guarantee you could take a pro driver and take a car that is 2 years old or even a decade old and put him up against a bunch of average club racers, and he's gonna, drive circles around them because he's that good a driver, not that the car is that good. So all things to consider. Anyway, I don't know why, considering the fact that this is a team kit, that they haven't upgraded or replaced that 0.2 millimeter shim. In fact, the one that is recommended, I mean, this is like an associated document, like a little addendum. Here's a performance tip, whatever. Because, like I said, I lost 2 screws. I've been building RC cars for decades. If I have that big a problem getting that little pin in, imagine someone who isn't experienced. They're going to lose those pins in a heartbeat. They're going to have they may not be able to get them in at all. They might have to take it up to the local shop and have someone there do it for them. And this is just to get a pin into an out drive over one of the big gears, one of the pinion gears, or ring gears, excuse me. I keep switching those. So that part is not available anymore. Associated doesn't make it. I tried looking like 8-9 months ago when I was thinking about pulling this out and finishing it, and I could not find that part. So I will put up in the description, I'll put up some links for this, or at least show you the parts when they arrive in a couple of days. I think it's Yokomo. They make some very thin shims of the correct size, which is 5 by 8 by, whatever the thickness is. And they make a 0.05, a 0.1, and a 0.2 in a pack. Now, the 0.2 is what we get with ours. And we need to go down to a 0.15 or even a 0.1 so that shim can, so that pin can go in properly. Because this is going to make that differential a little tight on one side. That's not a good thing. In fact, when those parts come in, if I don't have the car ready to go to the track, I may rip it down again and rebuild both of those diffs. But having a 0.05 and a 0.1, I can use one of each of those and get the thickness I need. So, or I could even, go to 1 or 0.5, whatever it takes to loosen that up so that it's going to rotate without any undue resistance, but still provide a seal. So now I've talked for 13 minutes, almost 14 minutes, but this is important. So if you have this car, you're going to want to get those parts. You've probably experienced the issue I'm talking about. You may have even lost a couple of pins trying to put them in. You've probably certainly had frustration trying to put them in. So let's move on. So bag 7. Okay, this is everything for my steering. Is it going to fit? I think so. If this fits, I'll just put all of these parts in the Ziploc bag here and set it aside. That is very nice. They've given us these parts in aluminum. This is one of the advantages of a team kit. And this is potentially another logical reason or argument for going with the 74.1 instead of the 74.2. There are not a ton of aftermarket parts out yet or factory upgrade parts yet for that version. Whereas the 74.1, all of the parts are out there, all the factory parts are out there, and when they do their team kits, they give you all the goodies, like the aluminum parts instead of plastic, pieces like this. You get the best of the best with the team kits. So something to consider. Okay, just to not have them where they might get lost or dumped or something, I'm going to go ahead and put these little bolts into these hexes. I'm not doing any Loctite on them because I'm not ready to properly install them. I'm just getting them set aside so they aren't going to fly away. Now these guys, I am going to put Loctite on them because soon they're going to be covered in grease and I won't be able to get Loctite in there without problems or having to totally clean them off again. So these little grub screws go into these little barrels here, or at least they used to. I'm thinking of a different design maybe. Do they not use them anymore? That's interesting. Oh, I know where these are for. They go in here and they are going to clamp down on this spot. So as long as I've got them, I'll go ahead and put that little bit of Loctite there. You don't want too much, especially on small screws. There we go. This is a very nice setup. It seems like they've done a lot of things to make it lighter and included all of that stuff into this team kit. Like, for example, these axles here. Those are going to go through here. And the part that isn't chromed is going to be positioned where that little grub screw is. And that's going to lock this pin in place. And then this part can rotate on the arm totally free without a need for a nut or a flat head at this side, all of which would add a bunch of extra weight. All it takes is one teeny little steel grub screw inside an existing piece, and all you need then is a flat axle. It's a very good solution. Likewise, the way these are done with this little cup that just goes over the end here, and that locks our pin down that holds all this rotating assembly for the CV joint. The pin can't escape, and it's just one less thing to worry about. It's very nice. Move these things over. Okay, first things first. Let's go to step 1 and let's clean these parts, trim the excess off. Always check any trees. Just double check them. Make sure there isn't something there like a little plastic washer. You never know. Okay, this is our right, and this is our left. There's an L there and an R on this side. So 3x8s, we need 4. There we go. Okay, bearings. Larger outer bearing. Small spacer. This is an essential item. Basically, it spaces the reese for each of the 2 bearings, the inner rotating surface, and that keeps the bearings from being clamped against each other and causing resistance. Okay, now we need the caster hat bushings. There's a thick one and a thin one, and guess what? They're not in here. This is one of the specialty parts that they have included. I think the original kit came with either steel or plastic, but the team kit comes with aluminum anodized blue, and I think they have them elsewhere in a different bag. I think I saw them when I was looking through. the various bags. Let's see, we've got 12 and 13. Here they are, or not 13. This is another, like a specialty bag. It's not labeled, and it's got some extra hexes, or these may just be our rears, and it has our bushings. So as long as I am having to open this at this time, I'm going to go ahead and put the screws into the hexes. So those don't get misplaced along the way. See, the non-team kit may have come with plastic hexes to save money, and these may be an upgrade part that is now included because it's the team kit. I can set those two aside for now, those sway bars. Okay, now we have options. We have a thick and a thin, and depending on whether we have the thick one on top and the thin on the bottom, or vice versa, we can change our axle height. Now, they say put the thin at the bottom and the thick one at the top. I'm going to check my build and see if that goes for mine as well. And mine says the same thing. Thick on top, thin on the bottom. So, and the way you tell is, it should be pretty obvious. The top is thicker. That's going to be like a washer or a spacer. So, thick on top, thin down below. And these are marked right and left, and there's a 9 on it. That is a caster block, so that is 9 degrees of caster. Okay, that's our left. Left and left, right and right. And we need 2 3x12s and 2 3x14s. Now, you'll notice that some of the bushing is sticking out the top here. You do not want to crush these. That's why I would recommend using a little more Loctite than normal, because you just want to anchor it. You don't want to tighten it hard, because if you apply too much pressure, that aluminum tube will balloon out. It'll press against the sidewalls, and you'll never get that undone. It'll always be like that. You'll have to throw the parts away and replace them. Wait a minute. I did that upside down. Okay, there are our two assemblies, left and right. And we need our ball studs. And let's see, we need the 6mm ball stud there and the 8 over there. So swapping out the titaniums for the stainless. No spacers on those, at least not yet. That might happen during tuning. One thing that I really like about this kit is that almost every single piece of hardware is 2mm or 5.5 hex, or 5.5 bolts, 2mm hex, and you got a handful of 1.5mm hex items only where necessary. But that's really nice, just to only need a couple of wrenches, not be constantly switching back and forth and such. Okay, time to put our CVs and axles together. Okay, that's left, this is right. Okay, the hole in the barrel is straight up and down, more or less. Okay, hold it by the threads and pinch so that you're pressing the hex against the bearing and you're pulling this axle through as tightly as possible. And then go ahead and tighten that screw. Don't tighten it too hard. You don't want to bust it or strip it. I'm not going to bother with Loctite on these two screws or on the rears, because if it gets loose, it's within a hub. The screw cannot come out far enough to fall off or escape because it's trapped inside the wheel hub. Chances are it's not going to loosen to begin with, and you put a little too much Loctite on there and it's almost glued in place. It's better just to not worry about it and let it ride. So our grub screw is on the left-hand side of the upright, so that means we need it this way, not this way. And one might say, well, how come you're not using any grease on that shaft? Because it's not going to rotate inside the piece of aluminum here. Just put your fingers on either side of it so it's not sticking out one side or the other. And tighten down the grub screw. Done. And now we're on to bag 8.